Peacock Pie, a book of rhymes, by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org by Bruce Kachuk. Up and Down. The Horseman. I heard a horseman ride over the hill. The moon shone clear, the night was still. His helm was silver, and pale was he, and the horse he rode was of ivory. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Up and Down by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Down the hill of Ludgate, up the hill of Fleet, to and fro and east and west with people flows the street. Even the King of England on Temple Bar must beat for leave to ride to Ludgate down the hill of Fleet. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Mrs. Earth by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Mrs. Earth makes silver black, Mrs. Earth makes iron red, but Mrs. Earth cannot stain gold nor ruby red. Mrs. Earth the slenderest bone whitens in her bosom cold, but Mrs. Earth can change my dreams no more than ruby or gold. Mrs. Earth and Mr. Sun can tan my skin and tire my toes, but all that I'm thinking of, ever shall think, why, neither knows. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Old Shellover by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Come, said old Shellover. What, says Creep? The horny old gardener's fast asleep. The fat cock thrush to his nest has gone, and the dew shines bright in the rising moon. Old Sally Worm from her hole doth peep. Come, said old Shellover. Ah, said Creep. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Alas, Alack by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Anne, Anne, come quick as you can. There's a fish that talks in the frying pan. Out of the fat, as clear as glass, he put up his mouth and moaned, alas! Oh, most mournful, alas, alack! Then turned to his sizzling and sank him back. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. The Bandog by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Has anybody seen my Mopser? A comely dog is he, with hair of the color of a Charles V, and teeth like ships at sea. His tail it curls straight upwards, his ears stand two abreast, and he answers to the simple name of Mopser, when civilly addressed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Jim J. by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Do-diddle-dee-do. Poor Jim J. got stuck fast in yesterday. Squinting he was, on cross legs bent, never heeding the wind was spent. Round veered the weathercock, the sun drew in, and stuck was Jim like a rusty pin. We pulled and we pulled from 7 till 12, Jim too frightened to help himself, but all in vain. The clock struck 1, and there was Jim, a little bit gone. At 5:30 you scarce could see a glimpse of his flapping handkerchie. And when came noon and we climbed sky high, Jim was a speck slipping by. Come tomorrow, the neighbors say, he'll be past crying for, poor Jim Jay.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Dunce by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Why does he still keep ticking? Why does his round white face stare at me over the books and ink and mock at my disgrace? Why does that thrush call, dunce, dunce, dunce? Why does that bluebottle buzz? Why does the sun so silent shine? And what do I care if it does?
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I Can't Abear by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. I can't abear a butcher. I can't abide his meat. The ugliest shop of all is his, the ugliest in the street. Bakers are warm, cobblers dark, chemists burn watery lights. But oh, the sawdust butcher's shop, that ugliest of sights.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Someone by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Someone came knocking at my wee small door. Someone came knocking, I'm sure, sure, sure. I listened, I opened, I looked to left and right, but naught there was a stirring in the still, dark night. Only the busy beetle tap-tapping in the wall. Only from the forest the screech owl's call. Only the cricket whistling while the dewdrops fall. So I know not who came knocking at all, at all, at all.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Chicken by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Clapping her platter stood plump Bess, and all across the green came scampering in on wing and claw, chicken fat and lean. Dorking Spaniard, Cochin China, bantam sleek and small, like feathers blown in a great wind, they came at Bessie's call.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Bread and Cherries by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Cherries, ripe cherries, the old woman cried, in her snowy white apron and basket beside. And the little boys came, eyes shining, cheeks red, to buy bags of cherries to eat with their bread.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hapless by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Hapless, hapless I must be, all the hours of life I see, since my foolish nurse did once bed me on her leggen bones, since my mother did not wheel to snip my nails with blades of steel. Had they laid me on a pillow in a cot of water willow, had they bitten finger and thumb, not to such ill hap I had come.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Little Bird by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. My dear daddy bought a mansion for to bring my mammy to, in a hat with a long feather and a trailing gown of blue, and a company of fiddlers and a rout of maids and men dance the clock round to the morning in a gay house-warming then. And when all the guests were gone, and all was still as still can be, in from the dark ivy hopped a wee small bird, and that was me.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Miss T by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. It's a very odd thing, as odd as can be, that whatever Miss T eats turns into Miss T. Porridge and apples, mince muffins and mutton, jam junket jumbles, not a rap, not a button, it matters, the moment they're out of her plate, though shared by Miss Butcher and sour Mr. Bate. Tiny and cheerful and neat as can be, whatever Miss T eats turns into Miss T.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Cake and Sack by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Old King Caraway supped on cake and a cup of sack, his thirst to slake. Bird in arras and hound in hall watched very softly or not at all. Fire in the middle, stone all round, changed not, heeded not, made no sound. All by himself, at the table high, he'd nibble and sip while his dreams slipped by, and when he had finished, he'd nod and say, "Cake and sack for King Caraway."
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Barbers by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Gold locks and black locks, red locks and brown, top knot to love curl, the hair wisps down. Straight above the clear eyes, rounded round the ears. Snip, snap, and snick-a-snick, clash the barber's shears. Us in the looking-glass, footsteps in the street. Over, under, to and fro, the lean blades meet. Bay rum or bear's grease, a silver groat to pay. Then out a shin-shan shining in the bright blue day.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ship of Rio by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. There was a ship of Rio sailed out into the blue, and 99 monkeys were all her jovial crew. From boatswain to the cabin boy, from quarter to caboose, there weren't a stitch of calico to breech 'em, tight or loose. From spar to deck, from deck to keel, from barnacle to shroud, there weren't one pair of reach-me-downs to all that jabbering crowd. But wasn't it a gladsome sight, when roared the deep-sea gales, to see them reef her fore and aft, a-swinging by their tails? Oh, wasn't it a gladsome sight, when glassy calm did come, to see them squatting, tailor-wise, around a keg of rum? Oh, wasn't it a gladsome sight, when in she sailed to land, to see them all a-scampering skip for nuts across the sand?
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Hide and Seek by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Hide and seek, says the wind, in the shade of the woods. Hide and seek, says the moon, to the hazel buds. Hide and seek, says the cloud, star on to star. Hide and seek, says the wave at the harbor bar. Hide and seek, say I to myself, and step out of the dream of wake into the dream of sleep.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Tillie by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Old Tillie Turveycombe sat to sew, just where a patch of fern did grow. There as she yawned, and yawn wide did she, floated some seed down her gull-et. And look you once, and look you twice, poor old Tillie was gone in a trice. But oh, when the wind do a moaning come, 'tis poor old Tillie sick for home. And oh, when a voice in the midst do sigh, old Tillie Turveycomb's floating by.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Huntsmen by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. 3 jolly gentlemen in coats of red rode their horses up to bed. 3 jolly gentlemen snored till morn, their horses champing the golden corn. 3 jolly gentlemen at break of day came clitter-clatter down the stairs and galloped away.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Tired Tim by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Poor tired Tim, it's sad for him. He lags the long bright morning through, ever so tired of nothing to do. He moons and mopes the livelong day, nothing to think about, nothing to say. Up to bed with his candle to creep, too tired to yawn, too tired to sleep. Poor tired Tim, it's sad for him.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mima by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Jemima is my name, but oh, I have another. My father always calls me Meg, and so do Bob and Mother. Only my sister, jealous of the strands of my bright hair, Jemima, Mima, Mima, calls mocking up the stair.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Cupboard by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. I know a little cupboard with a teeny tiny key, and there's a jar of lollipops for me, me, me. It has a little shelf, my dear, as dark can be, and there's a dish of Banbury cakes for me, me, me. I have a small fat grandmamma with a very slippery knee, and she's keeper of the cupboard with the key, key, key. And when I'm very good, my dear, as good can be, there's Banbury cakes and lollipops for me, me, me.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Boys and Girls. Then, by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 years ago, all through the night with lantern bright, the watch trudged to and fro, and little boys tucked snug abed would wake from dreams to hear 2 o' the morning by the clock, and the stars a shining clear. Or when across the chimney tops screamed shrill a northeast gale, a faint and shaken voice would shout 3, and a storm of hail.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Quartette by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Tom sang for joy, and Ned sang for joy, and old Sam sang for joy. All we 4 boys piped up loud, just like one boy. And the ladies that sate with the squire, their cheeks were all wet, for the noise of the voice of us boys, when we sang our quartette. Tom he piped low, and Ned he piped low, and old Sam he piped low. Into a sorrowful fall did our music flow. And the ladies that sate with the squire vowed they'd never forget how the eyes of them cried for delight when we sang our quartette.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Poor Henry by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Thick in its glass the physic stands. Poor Henry lifts distracted hands, his round cheek wans in the candle light, to smell that smell, to see that sight. Finger and thumb clench his small nose, a gurgle, a gasp, and down it goes. Scowls Henry now, but mark that cheek, sleek with the bloom of health, next week.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Lost Shoe by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Poor little Lucy, by some mischance, lost her shoe as she did dance. 'Twas not on the stairs, not in the hall, not where they sat at supper at all. She looked in the garden, but there it was not, hen house or kennel or high dovecot. Dairy and meadow and wild woods through showed not a trace of Lucy's shoe. Bird nor bunny nor glimmering moon breathed a whisper of where 'twas gone. It was cried and cried, oh yes and oh yes, in French, Dutch, Latin, and Portuguese. Ships the dark seas went plunging through, but none brought news of Lucy's hue. And still she patters in silk and leather, o'er snow, sand, shingle, in every weather. Spain and Africa, Hindustan, Java, China, and lamped Japan, plain and desert she hops through, Pernambuco to gold Peru, mountain and forest and river too, all the world over for her lost shoe.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Full Moon by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. One night as Dick lay half asleep, into his drowsy eyes a great still light began to creep from out the silent skies. It was the lovely moon's, for when he raised his dreamy head, her surge of silver filled the pane and streamed across his bed. So for a while each gazed at each, Dick and the solemn moon, till climbing slowly on her way, she vanished and was gone.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Truants by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Ere my heart beats too coldly and faintly to remember sad things yet be gay, I would sing a brief song of the world's little children magic hath stolen away. The primroses scattered by April, the stars of the wide Milky Way, cannot outnumber the hosts of the children magic hath stolen away. The buttercup green of the meadows, the snow of the blossoming May, lovelier are not than the legions of children magic hath stolen away. The waves tossing surf in the moonbeam, the albatross lone on the spray, alone know the tears wept in vain for the children magic hath stolen away. In vain, for at hush of the evening, when the stars twinkle into the gray, seems to echo the far-away calling of children magic hath stolen away.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Window by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Behind the blinds I sit and watch the people passing by, and not a single one can see my tiny watching eye. They cannot see my little room, all yellowed with the shaded sun. They do not even know I'm here, nor'll guess when I am gone.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mistletoe by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Sitting under the mistletoe, pale green fairy mistletoe, one last candle burning low, all the sleepy dancers gone. Just one candle burning on, shadows lurking everywhere. Someone came and kissed me there. Tired I was, my head would go nodding under the mistletoe. Pale green fairy mistletoe. No footsteps came, no voice, but only just as I sat there, sleepy, lonely, stooped in the still and shadowy air, lips unseen, and kissed me there.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Bookworm by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. I'm tired, oh tired of books, said Jack. I long for meadows green, and woods where shadowy violets nod their cool leaves between. I long to see the ploughman stride his darkening acres o'er, to hear the hoarse sea waters drive their billows 'gainst the shore. I long to watch the sea-mew wheel back to her rock-perched mate, or where the breathing cows are housed lean dreaming o'er the gate. Something has gone, and ink and print will never bring it back. I long for the green fields again. I'm tired of books, said Jack.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Three Queer Tales. Berries by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. There was an old woman went blackberry picking along the hedges from Weep to Wicking. Half a puddle, no more she had got, when out steps a fairy from her green grot, and says, "Well, Jill, would 'ee picky mo?" And Jill she curtsies and looks just so. "Be off," says the fairy, "as quick as you can, over the meadows to the little green lane that dips to the hayfields of Farmer Grimes. I've buried those hedges a score of times. Bushel on bushel, I'll promise 'ee, Jill, this side of supper, if 'ee pick with a will." She glins very bright and speaks her fair, then lo and behold, she had faded in air. Be sure, old goody, she trots betimes over the meadows to Farmer Grimes, and never was queen with jewelry rich as those same hedges from twig to ditch. Like Dutchmen's coffers, fruit, thorn, and flower, they shone like William and Mary's bower. And be sure old goody went back to weep, so tired with her basket she scarce could creep. When she comes in the dusk to her cottage door, there's Towser wagging as never before to see his missus, so glad to be come from her fruit-picking back to he. As soon as next morning dawn was grey, the pot on the hob was simmering away, and all in a stew, and a hugger-mugger Towser, and Jill a boiling of sugar, and the dark clear fruit that from fairy came, for syrup and jelly and blackberry jam. 12 jolly gallipots Jill put by, and one little teeny one, 1 inch high, and that she's hidden a good thumb deep, halfway over from Wicking to Weep.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Off the Ground by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. 3 jolly farmers once bet a pound, each dance the other's wood off the ground. Out of their coats they slipped right soon, and neat and nicem put each his shoon. 1, 2, 3, and away they go, not too fast and not too slow, out from the elm tree's noonday shadow, into the sun and across the meadow, past the schoolroom with knees well bent, fingers a-flicking, they dancing went. Upsides and over, and round they crossed, click-clacking, the parish bound, By Tupman's meadow they did their mile, Ti to Tum on a 3-barred stile, then straight through Whipham down hill to Week, footing it lightsome but not too quick, up fields to Watchet and on through Wye, till 7 fine churches they'd seen skip by, 7 fine churches and 5 old mills, farms in the valley and sheep on the hills, Old Man's Acre and Dead Man's Pool, all left behind as they danced through wool, and wool gone by, like tops that seem to spin in sleep, they danced in dream. Withy, Wellover, Wassop, Woe, like an old clock their heels did go. A league and a league and a league they went, and not one weary and not one spent. And lo and behold, past Willowcombe-Lee, stretched with its waters the great green sea. Says Farmer Bates, I puffs and I blows, what's under the water, why, no man knows. Says Farmer Giles, my mind comes weak, and a good man drownded is far to seek. But Farmer Turvey, on twirling toes, ups with his gaiters, and in he goes. Down where the mermaids pluck and play on their twangling harps in a sea-green day. Down where the mermaids, finned and fair, sleek with their combs their yellow hair. Bates and Giles on the shingle sat, gazing at Turvey's floating hat, but never a ripple nor bubble told where he was supping off plates of gold. Never an echo rilled through the sea of the feasting and dancing and minstrelsy. They called, 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 came no reply, naught but the ripple's sandy sigh. Then glum and silent they sat instead, vacantly brooding on home and bed, till both together stood up and said, Us knows not, dreams not, where you be, Turvey, unless in the deep blue sea. But excusing silver, and it comes most willing, here's us two paying our 40 shilling. For it's sartin sure, Turvey, safe and sound, you danced us square, Turvey, off the ground.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Thief at Robin's Castle by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. There came a thief one night to Robin's castle. He climbed up into a tree, and sitting with his head among the branches, a wondrous sight did see. For there was Robin supping at his table with candles of pure wax, his dame and his 2 beauteous little children with velvet on their backs. Platters for each there were shin-shining of silver, many a pound, and all of beaten gold 3 brimming goblets standing the table round. The smell that rose up richly from the baked meats came thinning amid the boughs, and much that greedy thief who snuffed the night air his hunger did arouse. He watched them eating, drinking, laughing, talking, busy with finger and spoon, while 3 most cunning fiddlers, clad in crimson, played them a supper tune. And he waited in the tree-top like a starling, till the moon was gotten low. When all the windows in the walls were darkened, he softly in did go. There Robin and his dame in bed were sleeping, and his children young and fair. Only Robin's hounds from their warm kennels yelped as he climbed the stair. All were sleeping, page and fiddler, cook, scullion, free from care. Only Robin's stallions from their stables neighed as he climbed the stair. A wee wan light the moon did shed him, hanging above the sea. And he counted into his bag of beaten silver platters 33, of spoons 60, of jolly golden goblets he stowed in 4 save 1, and 6 fine 3-branched Cupid candlesticks before his work was done. 9 bulging bags of money in a cupboard, 2 snuffers and a dish he found, the last all studded with great garnets and shapen like a fish. Then tiptoe up he stole into a chamber, where on tasselled pillows lay Robin and his dame in dreaming slumber, tired with the summer's day. That thief he mimbled round him in the gloaming, their treasures for to spy. Combs, brooches, chains, and rings and pins and buckles, all higgledy-piggledy. A watch shaped in the shape of a flat apple, in purest crystal set. He lifted from the hook where it was ticking, and crammed in his pochette. He heaped the pretty baubles on the table, trinkets, knick-knackery. Pearls, diamonds, sapphires, topazes, and opals, all in his bag put he. And there in night's pale gloom was Robin dreaming he was hunting the mountain bear, while his dame in peaceful slumber in nowise heeded a greedy thief was there. And that ravenous thief he climbed up even higher, till into a chamber small he crept where lay poor Robin's beauteous children, lovelier in sleep withal. Of fairer was their hair than gold of goblet, yond silver their cheeks did shine, and their little hands that lay upon the linen made that thief's hard heart to pine. But though a moment there his hard heart faltered, eftsoons he took them twain, and slipped them into his bag with all his plunder, and soft stole down again. Spoon, platter, goblet, ducats, dishes, trinkets, and those 2 children dear, a-quaking in the clinking and the clanking, and half bemused with fear, he carried down the stairs into the courtyard. But there he made no stay. He just tied up his garters, took a deep breath, and ran like the wind away. Past forest, river, mountain, river, forest, he coursed the whole night through, till morning found him come into a country where none his bad face knew. Past mountain, river, mountain, that thief's lean shanks sped on, till evening found him knocking at a dark house, his breath now well nigh gone. There came a little maid, and asked his business. A cobbler dwelt within, and though she much misliked the bag he carried, she led the bad man in. He bargained with the cobbler for a lodging, and soft laid down his sack. In the dead of night, with none to spy or listen, from off his weary back. And he taught the little chicks to call him father, and he sold his stolen pelf, and bought a palace, horses, slaves, and peacocks, to ease his wicked self. And though the children never really loved him, he was rich past all belief, while Robin and his dame o'er delf and pewter spent all their days in grief.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Places and People. A Widow's Weeds by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. A poor old widow in her weeds sowed her garden with wildflower seeds, not too shallow and not too deep, and down came April, drip, drip, drip. Up shone May like gold, and soon green as an arbor grew leafy June, and now all summer she sits and sows where willow herb comfrey bugloss blows, teasel and tansy, meadow sweet, campion, toadflax, and rough hawksbit, brown bee orchis, and peals of bells, clover, burnet, and thyme she smells. Like Oberon's meadows her garden is, drowsy from dawn to dusk with bees. Weeps she never, but sometimes sighs, and peeps at her garden with bright brown eyes, and all she has is all she needs, a poor old widow in her weeds.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sooeep by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Black as a chimney is his face, and ivory white his teeth, and in his brass-bound cart he rides, the chestnut blooms beneath. Sooeep, Sooeep, he cries, and brightly peers this way and that to see, with his two light blue shining eyes, what custom there may be. And once inside the house he'll squat, and drive his rods on high, till twirls his sudden sooty brush against the morning sky. Then mid his bulging bags of soot, with half the world asleep, his small cart wheels him off again, still hoarsely bawling, "Sooeep!"
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Little Green Orchard by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Someone is always sitting there in the little green orchard, even when the sun is high in noon's unclouded sky, and faintly droning goes the bee from rose to rose. Someone in shadow is sitting there in the little green orchard. Yes, and when twilight's falling softly on the little green orchard, when the gray dew distills and every flower cup fills, when the last blackbird says, "What, what?" and goes her way, shh! I have heard voices calling softly in the little green orchard. Not that I am afraid of being there in the little green orchard. Why, when the moon's been bright, shedding her lonesome light, and moths like ghosties come, and the horned snail leaves home, I've sat there whispering and listening there in the little green orchard. Only it's strange to be feeling there in the little green orchard, whether you paint or draw, dig, hammer, chop, or saw, when you are most alone, all but the silence gone. Someone is waiting and watching there in the little green orchard.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Old House by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. A very, very old house I know, and ever so many people go past the small lodge forlorn and still, under the heavy branches, till comes the blank wall, and there's the door. Go in they do, come out no more. No voice says aught, no spark of light across that threshold cheers the sight. Only the evening star on high less lonely makes a lonely sky, as one by one the people go into that very old house I know.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Poor Miss Seven by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Lone and alone she lies, poor Miss Seven, 5 steep flights from the earth and 1 from heaven. Dark hair and dark brown eyes, not to be sad she tries, still it's lonely lies, poor Miss Seven. 1 day-long watch hath she, poor Miss Seven, not in some orchard sweet in April, Devon, just 4 blank walls to see, and dark comes shadowily, no moon, no stars, ah me, poor Miss Seven, and then to wake again, poor Miss Seven, to the cold night to have sour physic given, out of some dream of pain, then strive long hours in vain, deep dreamless sleep to gain, poor Miss Seven. Yet memory softly sings, poor Miss Seven, songs full of love and peace, and gladness even, clear flowers and tiny wings, all tender lovely things, hope to her bosom brings, happy Miss Seven.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sam by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. When Sam goes back in memory, it is where the sea breaks on the shingle, emerald green, in white foam endlessly. He says with small brown eye on mine, I used to keep awake and lean from my window in the moon, watching those billows break. And 500,000 tiny hands and eyes like sparks of frost would dance and come tumbling into the moon on every breaker tossed. And all across from star to star I've seen the watery sea, with not a single ship in sight, just ocean there and me, and heard my father snore. And once, as sure as I'm alive, out of those wallowing moon-flecked waves I saw a mermaid dive, head and shoulders above the wave, plain as I now see you, combing her hair, now back, now front, her 2 eyes peeping through, calling me, Sam, quiet like, Sam. But me, I never went, making believe I kind of thought 'twas someone else she meant. Wonderful, lovely, there she sat, singing the night away, all in the solitudinous sea of that there lonely bay. P'raps, and he'd smooth his hairless mouth, p'raps if 'twere now, my son, p'raps if I heard a voice say, Sam, morning would find me gone.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Little Old Cupid by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. 'Twas a very small garden. The paths were of stone, scattered with leaves, with moss overgrown, and a little old Cupid stood under a tree, with a small broken bow he stood aiming at me. The dog rose in briars hung over the weeds, the air was aflock with the floating of seeds, and a little old Cupid stood under a tree, with a small broken bow he stood aiming at me. The dovecot was tumbling, the fountain dry, a wind in the orchard went whispering by, and a little old Cupid stood under a tree. With a small broken bow he stood aiming at me.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mrs. MacQueen, or The Lolly Shop, by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. With glass like a bullseye and shutters of green, down on the cobbles lives Mrs. MacQueen. At 6 she rises, at 9 you see her candle shine out in the linden tree. And at 9:30 not a sound is nigh, but the bright moon's creeping across the sky, or a far dog baying, or a twittering bird in its drowsy nest in the darkness stirred, or like the roar of a distant sea, a long-drawn shh in the linden tree.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Andy Battle, by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Once and there was a young sailor, yo-ho, and he sailed out over the say, for the isles where pink coral and palm branches blow, and the fireflies turn night into day, yo-ho, and the fireflies turn night into day. But the dolphin went down in a tempest, yo-ho, and with 3 forsook sailors ashore. The portingales took him where sugar canes grow, their slave for to be evermore, yo-ho, their slave for to be evermore. With his musket for mother and brother, yo-ho, he warred with the cannibals drear, in forests where panthers pad soft to and fro, and the pongo shakes noonday with fear, yo-ho, and the pongo shakes noonday with fear. Now lean with long travail, all wasted with woe, with a monkey for messmate and friend, he sits 'neath the cross in the cankering snow, and waits for his sorrowful end, yo-ho, and waits for his sorrowful end.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Old Soldier, by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. There came an old soldier to my door, asked a crust and asked no more. The wars had thinned him very bare, fighting and marching everywhere, with a fol-rol dol-rol ditto, with nose stuck out and cheek sunk in, a bristling beard upon his chin. Powder and bullets and wounds and drums had come to that soldier as such like comes, with a fol-rol dol-rol ditto. 'Twas sweet and fresh with buds of May, flowers springing from every spray, and when he had supped, the old soldier trolled the song of youth that never grows old, called fol-rol dol-rol ditto. Most of him rags, and all of him lean, and the belt round his belly drawn tightsome in, he lifted his peaked old grizzled head, and these were the very same words he said, a fol-rol dol-rol ditto.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Picture, by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Here is a sea-legged sailor, come to this tottering inn, just when the bronze on its signboard is fading, and the black shades of evening begin. With his head on thick paws sleeps a sheepdog. There stoops the shepherd, and see! All follow my leader, the ducks waddle homeward under the sycamore tree. Very brown is the face of the sailor. His bundle is crimson, and green are the thick leafy boughs that hang dense o'er the tavern, and blue the far meadows between. But the crust ale and cheese of the sailor, his mug and his platter of delf, and the crescent to light home the shepherd and sheepdog, the painter has kept to himself.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
King David by Walter de la Mare, read for LibriVox.org. King David was a sorrowful man, no cause for his sorrow had he, and he called for the music of 100 harps to ease his melancholy. They played till they all fell silent, played and play sweet did they, but the sorrow that haunted the heart of King David they could not charm away. He rose and in his garden walked by the moon alone. A nightingale hidden in a cypress tree jargoned on and on. King David lifted his sad eyes into the dark-boughed tree. Tell me, thou little bird that singest, who taught my grief to thee? But the bird in no wise heeded, and the king in the cool of the moon hearkened to the nightingale's sorrowfulness till all his own was gone.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Beasts. 5 Eyes by Walter de la Mare, read for LibriVox.org. In Hans' old mill his 3 black cats watch the bins for the thieving rats. Whisker and Claw they crouch in the night, their 5 eyes smouldering, green and bright. Squeaks from the flour sacks, squeaks from where the cold wind stirs on the empty stair, squeaking and scampering everywhere. Then down they pounce, now in, now out, at whisking tail and sniffing snout, while lean old Hans he snores away till peep of light at break of day. Then up he climbs to his creaking mill. Out come his cats all grey with meal, Jekyll and Jessup and One-eyed Jill.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Unstooping by Walter de la Mare, read for LibriVox.org. Low on his 4s the lion treads with the surly bear, but men straight upward from the dust walk with their heads in air. The free sweet winds of heaven, the sunlight from on high, beat on their clear bright cheeks and brows as they go striding by. The doors of all their houses they arch so they may go, uplifted o'er the 4 feet beasts unstooping to and fro.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nicholas Nye by Walter de la Mare, read for LibriVox.org. Thistle and darnel and dock grew there, and a bush in the corner of May. On the orchard wall I used to sprawl in the blazing heat of the day, half asleep and half awake, while the birds went twittering by, and nobody there my lone to share, but Nicholas Nye. Nicholas Nye was lean and grey, lame of a leg and old. More than a score of donkey's years he had seen since he was foaled. He munched the thistles, purple and spiked, would sometimes stoop and sigh, and turn to his head as if he said, "Poor Nicholas Nye." Alone with his shadows he'd drowse in the meadow, lazily swinging his tail. At break of day he used to bray, not much too hearty and hale. But a wonderful gumption was under his skin, and a clear calm light in his eye. And once in a while he'd smile, would Nicholas Nye. Seemed to be smiling at me, he would, from his bush in the corner of May. Bony and ownerless, widowed and worn, noble-kneed, lonely and grey, and over the grass would seem to pass, 'neath the deep dark blue of the sky, something much better than words between me and Nicholas Nye. But dusk would come in the apple boughs, the green of the glowworm shine. The birds in nest would crouch to rest, and home I'd trudge to mine. And there in the moonlight, dark with dew, asking not wherefore nor why, would brood like a ghost and as still as a post, old Nicholas Nye.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
All But Blind by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. All but blind in his chambered hole gropes for worms the four-clawed mole. All but blind in the evening sky the hooded bat twirls softly by. All but blind in the burning day the barn owl blunders on her way. And blind as are these three to me, so blind to someone I must be.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Grim by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Beside the blaze of 40 fires, giant Grim doth sit, roasting a thick-wooled mountain sheep upon an iron spit. Above him wheels the winter sky, beneath him fathoms deep lies hidden in the valley mists a village fast asleep. Save for one restive hungry dog that, snuffing towards the height, smells Grim's boiled supper meat and spies his watchfire twinkling bright.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Pigs and the Charcoal Burner by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. The old pig said to the little pigs, "In the forest is truffles and mast. Follow me then, all ye little pigs, follow me fast." The charcoal burner sat in the shade with his chin on his thumb, and saw the big pig and the little pigs chuffling come. He watched 'neath a green and giant bough, and the pigs in the ground made a wonderful grizzling and gruzzling and greedy sound. And when full fed they were gone, and night walked her starry ways, he stared with his cheeks in his hands at his sullen blaze.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Tit for Tat by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Have you been catching of fish, Tom Noddy? Have you snared a weeping hare? Have you whistled no nunny and gunned a poor bunny, or a blinded bird of the air? Have you trod like a murderer through the green woods, through the dewy deep dingles and glooms, while every small creature screamed shrill to Dame Nature, "He comes, and he comes"? Wonder I very much do, Tom Noddy, if ever, when you are a roam, an ogre from space will stoop a lean face and lug you home. Lug you home over his fence, Tom Noddy, of thorn stalks 9 yards high, with your bent knees strung round his old iron gun, and your head dangling by, and hang you up stiff on a hook, Tom Noddy, from a stone-cold pantry shelf, whence your eyes will glare in an empty stare till you are cooked yourself.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Summer Evening by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. The sandy cat by the farmer's chair mews at his knee for dainty fare. Old Rover in his moss-greened house mumbles a bone and barks at a mouse. In the dewy fields the cattle lie, chewing the cud 'neath a fading sky. Dobbin at manger pulls his hay. Gone is another summer's day.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Earth Folk by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. The cat she walks on padded claws, the wolf on the hills lays stealthy paws. Feathered birds in the rain-sweet sky, at their ease in the air, flit low, flit high. The oak's blind tender roots pierce deep, his green crest towers, dimmed in sleep, under the stars whose thrones are set where never prince hath journeyed yet.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Witches and Fairies. Longlegs by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Longlegs, he yelled, "Coo-wee!" and all across the coombe, shrill and shrill it rang through the clear green gloom. Fairies there were a-spinning, and a white tree maid lifted her eyes and listened in her rain-sweet glade. Bunny to bunny stamped, old Wat chin deep in bracken sate. A throstle piped, "I'm by, I'm by," clear to his timid mate. And there was Longlegs straddling, and hearkening was he, to distant echo thrilling back a thin coo-wee.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ride-by-Nights by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Up on their brooms the witches stream, crooked and black in the crescent's gleam. 1 foot high and 1 foot low, bearded, cloaked, and cowled they go. 'Neath Charlie's wain they twitter and tweet, and away they swarm 'neath the dragon's feet. With a whoop and a flutter they swing and sway, and surge pell-mell down the Milky Way. Betwixt the legs of the glittering chair they hover and squeak in the empty air. Then round they swoop past the glimmering lion, to where Sirius barks behind huge Orion, up then and over to wheel amain, under the silver and home again.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ruin by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. When the last colors of the day have from their burning ebbed away, about that ruin, cold and lone, the cricket shrills from stone to stone, and scattering o'er its darkened green, bands of the fairies may be seen, chattering like grasshoppers, their feet dancing a thistledown dance round it, while the great gold of the mild moon tinges their tiny acorn shoon.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Bewitched by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. I have heard a lady this night, lissom and jimp and slim, calling me over the heather, 'neath the beech boughs dusk and dim. I have followed a lady this night, followed her far and lone. Fox and adder and weasel know the ways that we have gone. I sit at my supper mid honest faces, and crumble my crust and say, not in the long-drawn drawl of the voices, talking the hours away. I'll go to my chamber under the gable, and the moon will lift her light in at my lattice from over the moorland, hollow and still and bright. And I know she will shine on a lady of witchcraft, gladness and grief to see, who has taken my heart with her nimble fingers, calls in my dreams to me, who has led me a dance by dell and dingle, my human soul to win, made me a changeling to my own mother, a stranger to my kin.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Melmillo by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. 33 birds there stood in an elder in a wood, called Melmillo, flew off 3, leaving 30 in the tree, called Melmillo, 9 now gone, and the boughs held 21, called Melmillo, and 18 left but 3 to nod and preen, called Melmillo, 3 to 1. Now of birds were feathers none. Then stole slim Melmillo in to that wood all dusk and green, and with lean long palms outspread, softly a strange dance did tread. Not a note of music she had for echoing company. All the birds were flown to rest in the hollow of her breast. In the wood thorn elder willow danced alone, lone danced Melmillo.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Peak and Puke by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. From his cradle in the glamoury they have stolen my wee brother, housed a changeling in his swaddlings for to fret mine own poor mother, pules it in the candle light wi' a cheek so lean and white, chinkling up its eyne so wee, wailing shrill at her and me. It will neither rock nor tend till the silent, silent send, lapping in their waesome arms, him they stole with spells and charms, till they take this changeling creature back to its own fairy nature. Cry, cry, as long as may be, ye shall ne'er be woman's baby.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Old Stone House by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Nothing on the gray roof, nothing on the brown, only a little greening where the rain drips down. Nobody at the window, nobody at the door, only a little hollow which a foot once wore. But still I tread on tiptoe, still tiptoe on I go, past nettles, porch, and weedy well, for oh, I know a friendless face is peering, and a clear, still eye peeps closely through the casement as my step goes by.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Changeling by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Ahoy and ahoy, twixt mocking and merry! Ahoy and ahoy there, young man of the ferry! She stood on the steps in the watery gloom. That changeling, ahoy there, she called him to come. He came on the green wave, he came on the gray, where stooped that sweet lady that still summer's day. He fell in a dream of her beautiful face, as she sat on the thwart and smiled in her place. No echo his oar woke, float silent did they, past low-gazing cattle in the sweet of the hay. And still in a dream at her beauty sat he, drifting stern foremost down, down to the sea. Come you then, call, when the twilight apace brings shadow to brood on the loveliest face. You shall hear o'er the water ring faint in the gray, ahoy and ahoy there, and tremble away. Ahoy and ahoy, and tremble away.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
At the Keyhole by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Grill me some bones, said the cobbler, some bones, my pretty Sue. I'm tired of my lonesome with heels and soles, spring sides and uppers too. A mouse in the wainscot is nibbling, a wind in the keyhole drones, and a sheet webbed over my candle, Susie. Grill me some bones. Grill me some bones, said the cobbler. I sat at my tic-tac-toe, and a footstep came to my door and stopped, and a hand groped to and fro, and I peered up over my boot and last, and my feet went cold as stones. I saw an eye at the keyhole, Susie. Grill me some bones.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Honey Robbers by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. There were two fairies, Gimel and Mel, loved Earthman's honey passing well. Oft at the hives of his tame bees they would their sugary thirst appease. When even began to darken to night, they would hie along in the fading light, with elf-locked hair and scarlet lips, and small stone knives to slit the skeps, so softly not a bee inside should hear the woven straw divide, and then with sly and greedy thumbs would rifle the sweet honeycombs, and drowsily drone to drone would say, "A cold, cold wind blows in this way," and the great queen would turn her head from face to face astonished, and though her maids with comb and brush would comb and soothe and whisper "Hush," about the hive would shrilly go a keening, keening to and fro, at which those robbers 'neath the trees would taunt and mock the honey bees, and through their sticky teeth would buzz, just as an angry hornet does. And when this Gimel and this Mel had munched and sucked and swilled their fill, or ever man's first cock could crow, back to their fairy mounds they'd go, edging across the twilight air, thieves of a guise remotely fair.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Mocking Fairy by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. "Won't you look out of your window, Mrs. Gill?" quoth the fairy, knitting nodding in the garden. "Can't you look out of your window, Mrs. Gill?" quoth the fairy, laughing softly in the garden. But the air was still, the cherry boughs were still, and the ivy tawed 'neath the empty sill, and never from her window looked out Mrs. Gill, on the fairy shrilly mocking in the garden. "What have they done with you, you poor Mrs. Gill?" quoth the fairy, brightly glancing in the garden. "Where have they hidden you, you poor old Mrs. Gill?" quoth the fairy, dancing lightly in the garden. But night's faint veil now wrapped the hill. Stark 'neath the stars stood the dead still mill, and out of her cold cottage never answered Mrs. Gill, the fairy mimbling mambling in the garden.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Earth and Air. Many a Mickle by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. A little sound, only a little, the breath in a reed, a trembling fiddle, the trumpets ring, the shuddering drum, so all the glory, bravery, hush of music come. A little sound, only a stir and a sigh of each green leaf, its fluttering neighbor by. Oak on to oak, the wide dark forest through, so o'er the watery wheeling world the night winds go. A little sound, only a little, the thin high drone of the simmering kettle, the gathering frost, the click of needle and thread. Mother, the fading wall, the dream, the drowsy bed.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Trees by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Of all the trees in England, her sweet 3 corners in, only the ash, the bonny ash, burns fierce while it is green. Of all the trees in England, from sea to sea again, The willow loveliest stoops her boughs beneath the driving rain. Of all the trees in England, past frankincense and myrrh, there's none for smell of bloom and smoke like lime and juniper. Of all the trees in England, oak, elder, elm, and thorn, the yew alone burns lamps of peace for them that lie forlorn.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Nobody Knows by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Often I've heard the wind sigh by the ivied orchard wall. Over the leaves in the dark night breathe a sighing call, and faint away in the silence, while I, in my bed, wondered 'twixt dreaming and waking what it said. Nobody knows what the wind is under the height of the sky, where the hosts of the stars keep far away house, and its wave sweeps by. Just a great wave of the air, tossing the leaves in its sea, and foaming under the eaves of the roof that covers me. And so we live under deep water, all of us, beasts and men, and our bodies are buried down under the sand when we go again, and leave like the fishes our shells, and float on the wind and away, to where o'er the marvelous tides of the air burns day.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Silver by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Slowly, silently, now the moon walks the night in her silver shoon. This way and that she peers and sees silver fruit upon silver trees. One by one the casements catch her beams beneath the silvery thatch. Couched in his kennel like a log, with paws of silver, sleeps the dog. From their shadowy coat the white breasts peep, of doves in a silver feathered sleep. A harvest mouse goes scampering by, with silver claws and silver eye, and moveless fish in the water gleam by silver reeds in a silver stream.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Will Ever by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Will he ever be weary of wandering, the flaming sun? Ever weary of waning in love light, the white still moon? Will ever a shepherd come with a crook of simple gold, and lead all the little stars like lambs to the fold? Will ever the wanderer sail from over the sea, up the river of water, to the stones, to me? Will he take us all into his ship, dreaming, and waft us far, to where in the clouds of the west the islands are?
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Wanderers by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Wide are the meadows of night, and daisies are shining there, tossing their lovely dews, lustrous and fair. And through these sweet fields go wanderers amid the stars, Venus, Mercury, Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars. Tired in their silver, they move, and circling, whisper and say, "Fair are the blossoming meads of delight, through which we stray."
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Songs. The Song of the Secret by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Where is beauty? Gone, gone. The cold winds have taken it with their faint moan. The white stars have shaken it, trembling, down into the pathless deeps of the sea. Gone, gone is beauty from me. The clear naked flower is faded and dead. The green-leafed willow, drooping her head, whispers low to the shade of her boughs in the stream, sighing a beauty secret as dream.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Song of Soldiers by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. As I sat musing by the frozen dike, there was one man marching with a bright steel pike. Marching in the dayshine like a ghost came he, and behind me was the moaning and the murmur of the sea. As I sat musing, 'twas not one but 10, rank on rank of ghostly soldiers, marching o'er the fen. Marching in the misty air, they showed in dreams to me, and behind me was the shouting and the shattering of the sea. As I sat musing, 'twas a host in dark array, with their horses and their cannon wheeling onward to the fray, moving like a shadow to the fate the brave must dree. And behind me roared the drums, rang the trumpets of the sea.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Bee's Song by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Thousands of thorns there be on the rosies where goesies the zebra of Z. Sleek, striped, and hairy, the steed of the fairy, Princess of Z. Heavy with blossoms be the rosies that growsies in the thickets of Z, where grazies the zebra, marked abracadabra, of the Princess of Z. And he nosies the posies of the rosies that growsies, so lovesome and free, with an eye dark and wary, in search of a fairy, whose rosies he nosies were not honeyed for he, but to breathe a sweet incense to solace the Princess of far away Z.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Song of Enchantment by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. A song of enchantment I sang me there, in a green, green wood by waters fair. Just as the words came up to me, I sang it under the wildwood tree. Widdershins turned I, singing it low, watching the wild birds come and go. No cloud in the deep dark blue to be seen, under the thick thatched branches green. Twilight came, silence came, the planet of evening's silver flame. By darkening paths I wandered through, thickets trembling with drops of dew. But the music is lost and the words are gone of the song I sang as I sat alone. Ages and ages have fallen on me, on the wood and the pool and the elder tree.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Dream Song by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Sunlight, moonlight, twilight, starlight, gloaming at the close of day, and an owl calling, cool dews falling in a wood of oak and may. Lantern light, taper light, torch light, no light, darkness at the shut of day, and lions roaring, their wrath pouring in wild waste places far away. Elf light, bat light, touchwood light, and toad light, and the sea a shimmering gloom of gray, and a small face smiling in a dream's beguiling, in a world of wonders far away.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Song of the Mad Prince by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Who said peacock pie? The old king to the sparrow. Who said crops are ripe? Rust to the harrow. Who said where sleeps she now? Where rests she now her head? Bathed in Eve's loveliness. That's what I said. Who said I mum's the word? Sexton to willow. Who said green dusk for dreams, moss for a pillow? Who said all time's delight hath she for narrow bed? Life's troubled bubble broken. That's what I said.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Song of Shadows by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. Sweep thy faint strings, musician, with thy long, lean hand. Downward the starry tapers burn, sinks soft the waning sand. The old hound whimpers, couched in sleep, the embers smoulder low. Across the walls the shadows come and go. Sweep softly thy strings, musician, the minutes mount to hours. Frost on the windless casement weaves a labyrinth of flowers. Ghosts linger in the darkening air. Hearken at the open door. Music hath called them, dreaming, home once more.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Song of Finis by Walter de la Mare. Read for LibriVox.org. At the edge of all the ages, a knight sate on his steed. His armor red and thinned with rust, his soul from sorrow freed. And he lifted up his visor from a face of skin and bone, and his horse turned head and whinnied as the twain stood there alone. No bird above that steep of time sang of a livelong quest. No wind breathed rest. Lone for an end, cried knight to steed, loosed an eager rein, charged with his challenge into space, and quiet did quiet remain.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
End of Peacock Pie A Book of Rhymes by Walter de la Mare